you again so much. Payton is a former Lamone dancer, had a company for many years, and also is a musician. Oboe for many years, and that gives him an interesting take on it because it's more like he talks from being an insider, from being a musician. So when you talk to him, he talks from as much that perspective as from another perspective. Some of these, I think, I'm realizing today, we want to spread out. Because this is stuff we want to talk about. Thanks for taking care of
aspect of modern dance, and in that particular range, there has always been a great deal of respect for music, the training of the dancers. There's a great deal of emphasis on musical values, musical structures, and there's a lot of, for dancers, complex rhythmic formulations. In my teaching, the kinds of students we have coming into college now are rhythmically impoverished, right? They have grown up doing 1/4 all of their lives, right? One, ad nauseum. So part of my responsibility as a teacher, of course, is to begin to give them some rhythmic experiences which are other than, for a lot of students, doing something in 3/4 is a revelation. Now, Rockford, same as Bill and Greg, and it's the center of dance in America. It's a working man's school, all right? We teach working men's dance. Now, what I'm going to snap right into today, because we're running out of time, is a couple of mixed meter problems. I thought one of the things we can do is give you guys mixed meter stuff. And, you know, a problem that we have with mixed meter that Bill and I are always having is I can make something up mixed meter, which is good training for the dancers. I throw the counts at him, and it's impossible to make any musical sense out of it, right? 7/4 followed by a 5/8 followed by a 3/4 followed by a 6/4 followed by an 11/8. Great, do it, Bill. And of course, all he's trying to, you know, for the dancers, I do that kind of it's something that works out and makes movement sense, and it's put together for a particular kind of flowing kind of thing. It's very mean to the musician, and I'm not going to do that for him today. The first thing we're going to do is kill him. The first thing we're going to do is a typical exercise that I'll give to the dancers, and it's in the realm of Tom-do exercises, or big shape. And all we do is dancers count it's 8 beats, and musicians count 2 bars 4/4, and then we snap on the bar 3/8, which puts us onto the offbeat, right? And that's the whole point for the dancers. Everything in their bodies just going to want to do on the break a 1 and 2 and 1, whereas in terms of musical rhythm is a 3, so we got that 1. Okay, and I just taught this thing to them, so we'll do it. Family goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now, specific request to Bill to thump out that downbeat and to the dancers to Mickey Mouse. So we have dee da da jump. Okay? So if you'll give that a little extra jazz. Something which I'll work with the musician more in an advanced level, where in terms of the rhythmic training, we're going to give more of the responsibility to the dance. And a thing, I'm trying to say too many things at once. All right, so what we're going to ask Bill to do on this one is, don't do the downbeat. Give us a GP on the downbeat. So they go dee da da. So they'll do the downbeat. So you have right, dee da da, 2. See if you got it. Not the first time.
Not the first time.
That becomes harder to make musical sense, right?
Oh yeah. Well,
Yeah.
even with the 3/8 in there, you end up, unless you're really clever, it sounds very much like a 3/8 stuck in there, and then you're to something different. You know, to make real music out of that, it always sounds like these layers of stuff, right? Layers. Think of this.
Cut and
Think
paste.
of this. It sounds like you cut and paste on the computer. You know, you just cut this one to this one to this one.
Okay, now we're going to move to another. We'll stick with the
Yeah.
same
Wait.
thing.
We got.
Watch this. Yeah. What I was trying to do is, in terms of training, it's to get the dancers to get that offbeat jag that the 3/8 gives, along with the key. And by having the dancers do the accent rather than Bill, in terms of the training of the dancers, I think we're getting more into that, making them do the key. That's my little pedagogy goal.
Is that accent the one at the bar 3?
No, it's 2 bars of 4/4 bar 3.
But that accent, where does that
It's
fall?
a downbeat of the first bar of 4.
Of the new cycle?
Yeah.
Yeah. The new cycle. So you got 1, 2, 3, and then 1.
So you don't do the first cycle?
So the first cycle you do.
Third cycle that coincide. Okay, now we'll try another version, and in this one, I'll ask Bill to do emphasize it, that kind of thing. And this time, we're going to have the dancers get a little exercise in cross bracing. So he's going to be freed up not to pop out the 3/8. You can put in 3/8 or whatever, wherever the hell you want to. But here at this point, what we're doing is the principle of the thing. You have downbeat becomes upbeat, and upbeat becomes downbeat by throwing the 3/8 bar in there. So,
You want me to play square, or should I add a 3/8 occasion?
it's okay. Okay, now, this is a little wrong. It's not confusing. Right. It's all good. Right, we'll see how this fly. We goofed a couple of times. All right, there are a couple of times where we didn't really have a 3/8 in there. We slipped into a big 4/8. But that's the kind of thing that we'll work on in terms of training the dancers in terms of relationship with the music. Now for another kind of mixed meter thing, if you give me a couple of minutes to, actually a minute and 30 seconds to teach a phrase, and this is where the point of the mixed meter in terms of the dance phrases is not the jack that mixed meter will give, but more of a sense of flow. Okay, where the fact that it's not the same meter one bar after another is to help the movement have a different kind of feel. Okay? So
Yeah, so it just takes a couple minutes. Yeah, I don't know about the rest of you, but you know, you always end up with these long, and you end up writing them out on the pianos, you know, got these long swinging numbers, and you're counting like crazy, and sometimes we have percussion, so Greg and I are playing together like crazy.
so in terms of numbers,
What I think he's gonna do is he's gonna do where he reads us up and says, they got to keep going, and we just go in a total end up thing. You know, like it's 32 B's or bars.
okay, Bill?
Yeah, he's gonna bring, might as well we hold this play, because
Oh, great.
how we doing? Are we ready?
Where's that?
So what is the,
Okay, now, this is more typical modern dance talk. I look at him and I say, 4, 6, 5. 4, 4, 6, 4, 5.
what is it again? What did you say again?
4, 6, 5.
Okay, so 15 total.
Now,
4, 6, 5, you ready? Yeah.
here's the process we're going to go through. In terms of musical bars, we got a bar 4, 4, followed by a bar 6, 4, followed by a bar 5, 4. And the key relationship that I would be feeding to Bill in the demonstration is has to do with demi-pliés, or downwards, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. Down, up, down, up, out. Relax, and 1.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay? And now, at the learning stage, what I would ask of Bill is to whack out the demi-pliés. So in this particular thing, there'd be 1 here, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the 1, we could make the 6, 2, 3s.
Yeah, the 1 and the 4, the 1 and the 6, and the 1 and the 5. You said
Right,
one.
yeah.
One down.
Okay. Maybe 6. 1, 3, 4, over, up, out, reach back, over, up, out, reach back, up. It's, here we go. I'll give you, for intro, This time, I'm going to ask Bill, what I'm going to be doing with the dancers is emphasizing the difference in the feeling between the 4/4, which movement-wise and rhythm-wise is a square kind of feeling. Dum, 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 beat, dum. And then the 6, 2, 3 should be a swingier, easier, D, dum, dum, D. I have no idea what a 5 is square, release, dum, dum. Okay? It's a 2 and a 3. Usually I communicate, when you get into the asymmetricals, 5, 7, 11, that kind of thing, I find it helpful to, at least for a start, communicate verbally the position if I want a 4 and a 3 or a 3 and a 4. That kind of, how the 7 breaks down, or how a 9 breaks down, or how a 5 breaks down. In this case, the 5 is a 2 and a 3. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Permutation, which is, again, dancer training where I make them hang on to the kind of feeling contrast between the 4 and the 3s, and I free go up. How many is the total number of counts we got? 15. 15. So he's got a bar of 15 4, and we have what we have. And this becomes more of a challenge for the dancers because they're at the cross phrasing, and that's part of their training. Because a point was being made in the ballet presentation about, you hardly ever in an actual ballet have 8 bars, 8 bars, 8 bars, 8 bars. Shouldn't that be part of the training? In the lineage I come from, it is part of the training. Okay, so I'll do it the first time, and then you'll be going.
And just from a musician point of view on this one, you can tell we haven't found anything yet we like. And so, it takes you a while, and sometimes you either find the groove of something or you don't. And right now I'm in the state of not quite finding anything that I can do that I'm happy with, that gets the flavor. But we're struggling.
We like hearing it.
What'd you say?
We like hearing it.
Well.
1, 2, 3, 4. And I was very pleased. This is the first time I've ever met these young ladies, and they did exactly what I was asking. I don't know if you could, probably you could pick up some of it. When they were doing it where Bill wasn't Mickey Mousing, there was I saw a change in the energy, particularly in the 4/4, where they were really hanging on to it, which is what, in terms of the dance training, I'm looking for, where they are beginning to internalize what they're doing rhythmically rather than just saying, yes, sir, I'll do a 4 and 6. Okay, I'm sort of in a hurry to get out of town here. We have a rehearsal in Philadelphia, but if you have any questions, I'll take a call.
Yeah, so any questions or comments? A couple seconds of that. Yeah.
Well, I have an issue that doesn't pertain strictly to Limon or any other technique. However, what kind of things come up when people have other musicians who want to sit in with them in class? What kind of dynamics develop, and the times where there are more than one person who wants to play? Whether that be piano and percussion, or whatever. I'd be interested in knowing what kind of problems people have encountered, or although that might be another issue.
You know what, it might be nice, we are going to, after the end of this, sit around as accompanists and just talk about sort of
That might be
problems in the field, and that would be a great
Okay.
one.
So I'll defer the question.
Okay.
I have a question, am I correct in thinking, perceiving that the last phrases are 5?
Yeah.
But so you counted off 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm 1,
Yeah, yeah.
No, I usually in the intro, I give whatever the last one is.
That's good, because
Unless it's a letter.
Thank you.
I don't mean to be
And we invite Viola and myself to be
loud. And people would sometimes say we couldn't really see because we were disturbed by the sound of the music. I also remember being in what was for that time a long dance, about 40 minutes long. Now everybody does an hour and a half dances. And towards the end, I did most of the dance on one leg, on the same leg. And towards the end of the dance, which is called Gion, which is very difficult, I was way down stage on the same leg I'd been on for 40 minutes. And there was a sound that occurred in the music that practically knocked me down every time. I had the experience too working with my own company with Alvin Lissier as musical director. And I had made a piece called Motorcycle Boat, and I started upstage, and I was flanked on either side by speakers. And obviously electronic music was dance. And I had something quite simple to do at the very beginning of the work, and there too I started shaking. And I said, Alvin, can it be that the sound is making me shake? Is making me quiver? He said, absolutely not. So leaving him one day, I put myself into a different relationship with the two speakers. Everything was fine. I didn't say. So there's always. So what I'm going to talk about and talk about everything else is music for class. It's hard to do because I was lucky to be able to do everything. Yeah? And I'm very interested in what happens between musicians. Not here and not here, but how do you get it? Particularly now when it's pretty well taken for granted that dance students have and acquire technical skills quite easily. Dancing gets technically better and better and better. Just as sports get more and more sophisticated, people keep setting new records. People can jump higher, move faster. Somehow the physical instrument has become sort of better tuned, I think. But so now everybody can get legs up to their ears, and that's fine. And I remember when I first started teaching or first started taking class, people always had a hard time turning. Everybody can turn now. So a lot of things that used to be physical difficulties for dancers seem not to be so anymore. Even where I teach, which is Sarah Lawrence College, where we don't audition students. Anybody can take dance classes seriously. And it's so serious that often if they're not fit for it, they drop out, right, Marjorie? So it seems to me we know people can do all these things. The question now is how. So I try very much to work on the how. And there's a whole thing that's called musicality that I don't think necessarily has to do with music. I think that's a question of
one thing, may I say that Viola does not give you an and count.
Yes, I give you an and
She
count.
gives an and, and she demonstrates in the tempo, but you've got to sort of, we feel each other, to sort of set the mood. Am I saying it right? Yes. So she would look at me and say and then we just start, and
Just thinking about that, I always feel whenever one wants to start anything, you know, there's always a kind of reluctance about starting. I was reluctant to start talking. Honestly, it's very late. Let's just forget it. So I think if you have to go before you start, it's exhausting. That's why I like just to start, because I feel otherwise we could say and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So and. Now, supposing we're a different day. But it also, excuse me, it also might be do something else. I don't do sing, you know, 5 and 7 and 8 and 4 because I feel that within four counts, one can use the time differently, you know, so that I do the phrasing usually within pretty common count. This includes threes, and you know, I've heard sort of sneering at people who teach them. May I say that there are some people who play three notes and can't play threes. Yeah, it's as though the walls had disappeared from the earth. I also had an accompanist once. She was an accompanist. She's not a musician. I asked her something in three. I gave something that was 3 measures of three. She said, that is impossible. I couldn't believe I had heard what I had heard. She said, no, that's not possible. That doesn't happen. So I said, excuse me, please. And I played for her. So, you know, it's not just we as teachers who are uneducated slobs. No, I must say, I sort of got a little bit annoyed with that assumption that we were all pretty ignorant and insensitive for us, but we're not.
Yeah, there's many bad musicians and bad dance teachers.
Yeah.
Never good, yeah.
Yeah.
We're trying to do something about that by improving our field.
You know, I used to play for MERS. That's a way of letting me take classes without paying very much money. And I remember what he said to me before the first time that I played. What he said was, when you start playing, it's you who runs the class. And it's true in a way. You know, it isn't immersive. It certainly wasn't going to let me choose what exercise I did, but it is the sound somehow that gives the definition to a class, I think. And I think that's something for musicians who work with them to realize that they have an extraordinary amount of power over the situation in which they're involved. Play something else you might play for some sort of harsh background. plays. And often what I do in order to give a kind of musical education is, as we go along, is when Marjorie plays something that I know, when I know what it is, which I don't know, I ask the students, do you know who wrote this?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
I ask them, do they know who wrote this? Because Marjorie sometimes starts with, say, a slow movement of a Beethoven sonata, and then goes on and improvises on it. So I often ask, do you know who the composer is? Or do you know what this is? And it isn't necessarily classical. I'm delighted with as many kinds of music as possible. So, play this. He's got the whole note. Huh?
Say end.
Oh, and.
Good.
Anybody have any questions? I know you want to eat lunch.
I just have a comment. I think you got your, may have got your revision on Bertha Ross, and I played for you at ATL in '87, because I came in class to play for you, and you said, and, I had no idea what to play. My career is that I didn't get fired trying to play that I don't fear, I put my fingers down and I played something that was successful.
I actually think you did very well.
I'm just going to say when we started out, Marjorie played that first phrase, you could see, or at least I could visualize the dance phrase. It didn't matter what the counts were. You could see where that dance phrase was going. It didn't matter what the counts were.
You didn't need the dancers on the space. See it already.
I was just wondering, since you seem so open-minded to leave the musician to make musical choices, what would determine something being wrong?
Well, something wrong would be speeding or retarding too much, although, for instance, in pliés, it's very easy, I think, for a pianist to retard or speed a little bit. And if it's not a very, if it's an advanced class, I think students should be able to hear and keep up with a pianist very often. It's also sometimes, if something is meant to be jagged and harsh, and something is very lyrical is played, I think that, again, for an advanced class, it would be a very good exercise, because we react to people not necessarily by doing the same thing, but by doing the opposite. But for less advanced people, it's very difficult. So I might object that it doesn't have the right density, perhaps. And it would usually be a question of that rather than other things.
Musical choice, melodic choice, say.
Melodic choice and and also a dynamic choice. Yeah, I'm not all that open-minded, actually. I don't want to give a false impression.
Did we catch you on a good day?
Well, I'm not teaching. I've stopped teaching for 2 weeks, and so you catch me. in a pretty good day. Yeah.
Did you play music as long as you've done choreography, or were there times in your life where you felt like you were more of a musician, and then times in your life where you felt like you were more a dancer, or was it always interwoven throughout your career?
Oh, well, I'm more of a dancer.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
yeah. I was just wondering, you're talking about the movement being connected from here to here, and it's what happens in between those two points that is what really is important.
To me, I
Right. Now, if you're, do you sometimes specify how those points are divided, or sort of like jump, like a theater, or do you leave that up?
well, I think when I demonstrate, I sort of show it. Although, as you see, I've become a handicapped person. So I'm temporarily, so I can't demonstrate as well, but I often have a student demonstrate.
But it's in your voice, Marty.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's in your voice as much as your body.
I guess actually I was somewhere, my company was on tour. We were somewhere in Ohio, somewhere in the Midwest, and I had to teach a class. It was one of those teenagers, tours where you do everything but perform practice. You get to teach everybody in the whole state first. And I was teaching somewhere, and the pianist who played for me was blind. Couldn't see anything. He was totally blind. And he played piano. And he played, I was just ecstasy. And totally what I consider appropriate. So obviously Natalie didn't probably no. I mean, that's what I think about working with you, really. It was always really in your voice. That's what I thought.
Exactly, because I was going to use an example. Viola, give an example, and I'm sitting there looking, what am I going to play? And I listen, and she doesn't know, and I don't know whether I'm going to play 2 or 3, and she doesn't know. And then once she says, and I said, I'm going to do a 3, and I'll do this. But I've felt it from what she's done, and and she'll just look at me. And another day, I might just do in 2, and she does. It'll be the same exercise from 2 to 3, and she'll look. Sometimes she'll smile, another time she'll just walk by it.
back here.